Hey friend, welcome back. My name's Katie, if you're new here, so good to have you. Today's yin practice is all about debunking the myth that we need a bunch of props to practice yin. Today's going to be a prop-free practice, but you can of course do this practice with props if you have them. This was inspired by really quarantine during COVID when we had no access to studios and we had to get creative teaching yin. So if you don't have traditional yoga props like blocks or like a bolster, try grabbing some books, maybe a throw pillow, or just practicing with no props at all. Hopefully this inspires you to incorporate a little bit more yin into your life. This practice is intended for more intermediate practitioners, people that are familiar with the practice. But if you are a beginner, I've got lots of videos for you. Check that beginner playlist, especially if you're new to yoga entirely, but even if you're new to yin. Let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start on our backs today. You can either come into Shavasana, constructive rest, any other lying down posture that feels good for you. I'll meet you on the mat. So as you come down onto your back, just find what feels good here. You can take a little movement to settle the body into position. Just a place where we can start to find some stillness. So maybe if you need a little movement first, as I do, you take that. And then you come into some stillness for yin. I like constructive rest to begin. This is really supportive for my low back. But if you want to take up space today, in Shavasana, maybe take the legs pretty wide. You could even take the arms up overhead if that feels nice. Either way, let's wiggle the body into the ground. Let's close the eyes. Let's take a big deep inhale and a big exhale, breath out the mouth to arrive. We'll start to practice what we call pratyahara, which is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, and it means withdrawing of the senses. So drawing your energy and attention inward to become really curious and patient about what's happening within. So you might start to notice first the sensation of the breath, or maybe the heartbeat. Maybe you notice the sensation of the weight of your head or your hips, your heels on the mat. Whatever draws your awareness and that internal experience, get really curious and just watch that sensation. And as you get curious about that spot, that place, notice how your awareness starts to shift maybe to another spot, still inside. You might start to notice the quality of your energy, something a little bit less obvious, a little bit more subtle going on in this moment under the skin. We'll take just a few more breaths here to really tap into this witness-like mentality. Getting to learn the body, our intuition with each breath. And as you're ready, start to extend and lengthen your breathing. And as you lengthen the breath, start to invite a little movement into the body, whatever that means for you. We'll come into our first yin pose here. We'll come into banana. So to come into banana, let's take a full body stretch. So feet forward, arms overhead. We'll start by walking the feet to the left and then take that upper body to the same side. creating this big rainbow shape, this banana shape, opening the whole right side body. Whatever you need to do with the shoulders is just fine. Both hips stay grounded, both hips reach up towards the sky. Maybe you cross at the ankles, right over left, or for a little bit of anchoring, try left over right. Direct the breath now to the edge of this sensation. And using the sensation that you're feeling, that stretch feeling, to help focus your awareness. So when you notice that your mind is outside of your body, you just bring it back to that next breath. Draw it in. And in this noticing state, you can start to notice your patterns of gripping, whether they're physical or mental grippings. And as you start to become aware of your tendencies, maybe to squeeze your glutes or scrunch up your eyebrows, maybe it's a tendency to kind of self-criticize when you get into these shapes, just start to let all of that dissolve. Relax the physical body first, and then you'll notice the mind start to soften. We'll stay in this banana pose on this side for just about 5 more cycles of breath. Take your last big inhale as you're ready. And then a big audible sigh to come back through center. And then slowly, carefully bring the knees into the chest. Give the low back a little love on the floor here, between sides, a little rock side to side, maybe some circles to massage the sacrum one way, and then the other way. You can just kind of use your knees like a little steering wheel here. Good, and then we'll stretch the body long when we're ready. Another big full body breath. Adjust myself on my mat here. And then let's walk the feet to the right and then tilt the upper body that same direction, but keeping the ribs really broad and open so we're not rolling to the right side. We're keeping that left hip anchored, left shoulder blade anchored. Cross the ankles if you like, either direction, and then just settle in and soften the body as you start to direct the breath. Let's take about 5 more cycles of breath. Last inhale when you're ready. And big exhale to release. You can float open your eyes. Let's pull the knees back into the belly and give the low back a little love again. However feels good. Maybe a little happy baby. And then from here, we'll just gently make our way up to tabletop. So if you've got some energy to burn today, maybe you rock and roll. Otherwise, you can just roll onto one side. Come up and then into the all fours position. Taking some intuitive movement when you get to all fours. So they can be traditional cat-cows or something a little bit more fluid if that feels nice. And then from your tabletop, from your cat-cow position, we're gonna come into sleeping swan. We'll start on the right side. So just move your hands a little further forward, bring your right knee up. And then you could just do a little wobble here to find the best position for you today for your hips. You can be pretty square, but this is called sleeping swan rather than pigeon. So I want you to let go of all the yang sort of alignment cues you've heard. And if it feels good, let that right hip drop to the right side. You can even slide the left knee up a little as you come to fold forward. That can add some internal rotation for the left leg, which is quite nice. So wherever you land, whichever version of sleeping swan you land in, start to come forward, and maybe you just rest on the elbows. Maybe you come all the way down and make a little pillow with your arms if that feels nice. Let's take about a couple minutes here. Direct the breath to that new space of sensation. Get really soft and patient and curious about the tissues in that right hip, and notice how they respond to the breath. If you're looking for more sensation here, if this isn't very sensational for you, you're pretty flexible, you can add an element of twist here. So just an option, you could come up onto your forearm, kind of twist, left forearm kind of twist to the right. Maybe you pick up the back foot and hang on to that for a few breaths. If this is more than a 7 on your 1 to 10 scale of sensation, then just ditch that. Also an option to sort of thread the needle here and come onto the left shoulder, left temple. So just get kind of curious about where your body wants to be and your edge. Let's just take about 3 more breaths wherever you are. So slow inhales, generous, relaxing exhales. Last big inhale to prepare for transition. And then exhale, start to push the floor away to work your way out and release that right leg. Just whatever feels good to release that right leg. I like to tuck my toes and kind of stretch the back of the knee and the calf here. If you'd like a downward facing dog, now's a good time. Just take a moment to feel that joyful whoosh of blood and fluid and energy back into those areas that were just compressed. And then as you're ready, you'll make your way into the second side, bringing the left knee forward and taking your time to check in with this left hip to see where it is today, what it needs. Again, same thing, you're more than welcome to drop your left hip to the side and to slide that right knee up a bit. Maybe you take this variation if you're used to pigeon, just to switch things up. Compress the body, the joints in a different way. So when we think of stretch, we think of elongation, but so much of what we're doing in yin is compression of the joint tissues, the tendons, the ligaments, the bones themselves. And that provides a lot of really healing hydration, and through compression of the joints, we actually create a little bit more stability in the joints. So maybe just change up your perspective here. Just keep that attention sort of internal, pratyahara, withdrawing your senses from the external world, exploring that vast universe of everything that's happening within. So if this posture, whatever version you are in of it, is interesting and sensational, stay there. There's a lot of value in the time we hold these postures in yin. If you're a little bored, you're seeking more sensation, that's when you might play around with adding that twist to the left, maybe thread the needle, or maybe you grab the right foot with the left hand, something like that. So just keep this yin-like in nature, meaning we're not exerting too much effort or force. We're really still surrendering the muscles as much as possible. Let's take about 3 more big breaths. Last inhale prepares you for transition. Big exhale to push the floor away, to release that left leg, and just take whatever feels right. And whether you're in tabletop or down dog here, maybe you're in child's pose or something else, we're gonna make our way to dangling pose. So tuck your toes and start to walk your hands back, lift the knees, lift the hips. Take your feet as wide as you'd like them, lots of space for the belly, big generous bend in the knees, and then drape and shake out the head. Maybe you bounce a little forward and back. Maybe it feels nice to sway side to side. You can start with the hands on the floor for support here, maybe on some sort of prop if that feels nice. If this is too much for the hamstrings, or maybe there's a little dizziness today, you could bring your forearms up to rest on your thighs and still get that nice big length for the whole posterior chain here. And just imagine a melting sensation. All the tension that's binding the vertebrae in a negative way. Let that sort of start to unwind. And this is one of the more intense yin postures. Again, very different from Uttanasana. The intention is to melt, not to find the deepest edge of possible stretch. So we'll stay here a little bit less time than the other postures, but I want you to really utilize that time. And again, keep that awareness, that focus, pulling and drawing to the space within. Almost like you were going on a magic school bus journey. Mrs. Frizzle taking you into the internal experience, if that relates. Give me a thumbs up. Let's take 3 more big, deep breaths here. Maybe you take opposite elbows. And last big inhale. Big audible exhale. Walk the hands forward. Bend your knees and lower your knees all the way to the mat, but keep your toes tucked. Good, we're gonna send the hips to the heels here with the toes tucked, and then let's reach back and tuck the baby toes. If your knees are a little too wide, you can bring them back in. And then we'll come into toe stretch, another yin pose that we can do without props. We're looking for about 70% of sensation here. So if this is 70, stay here. If you're not quite there, you can walk your hands up, but just make sure you don't hit 100 or even start to rev past that place. If this is already a 9, a 10, come down onto the forearms. So just be compassionate with your feet here and just be patient with the discomfort you might be feeling. Focus instead on the vitality that this compressive posture brings to the arches of the feet that are opened, lengthened. Five more cycles of breath and toe stretch. Try to lengthen the exhales. Try to practice patience. Last breath in. And come off of the heels. Untuck the toes. And then after you give yourself just a second to let the blood flush back into the toes, tap out the tops of the feet. If you have a downstairs neighbor like me, do that a little softer. If not, tap with abandon, tap away. And from here, let's come into Sphinx pose. So shift your hips forward, dropping the hips down. Maybe slide your back if you need to for the sake of your space. And bring the elbows under the shoulders. Let's pick up the right leg and lengthen the toes back and then take them out a little bit from the hip line. And then same thing, left leg, creating space for that low back, the sacrum. Lift the chest up here. Forearms are roughly parallel, but if that doesn't feel great on your shoulders, interlace the fingers and lightly push the arm bones, elbows into the mat. And close down the eyes here and direct the breath now into the belly, the front of the belly. Really pressing the belly into the floor with each inhale and feeling the spine melt back to the ground with each exhale breath. You can stay exactly here. Make sure that you're not clenching the glutes. Really relax through the low back. Or if you'd like a little bit more, take the hands wider and stretch the arms to come up into seal. Check that the shoulders don't squeeze up towards the ears here. We're really soft through the neck and the shoulders. Maybe just a little bit of strength for the upper back, but mostly just the bones doing the work here, holding us up. Last few breaths in this back bend. Take final inhale, make sure the heart's not beating fast. And then come down to the belly, take the elbows wide and create a little pillow with the hands. Take the head straight down, neutral neck. Give the hips a little wobble side to side here. And if the low back needs a little bit more, pick up the feet and sway the feet in the air side to side. And we'll come into crocodile pose, set the feet down, set the forehead down. Just relax the shoulders. Give yourself a few breaths to just lie down and let your weight really sink into the front side of the body and into the mat. Let's take another breath on the belly. And then bring the hands by the ribs and just really leisurely, lazily peel yourself off of the mat and come to child's pose. Toes together, hips to heels. Move really slow into child's pose. I'm going to try to avoid kind of snapping the low back into this opposite shape. And you can take any version of child's pose you like with the upper body. Maybe you extend the arms, maybe you flip the palms, reverse prayer. I quite like to just create a little pillow with my forearms for my head. Head can come to one side or stay neutral. If you turn your head to one side, just take 3 or so breaths and switch your gaze. Honing this skill of patience, of receptivity, is just as important as honing our skills of balance and strength. Take your last breath. And then come all the way up and through to seated. And as you come to seated, just rest the hands face down on the thighs, the knees, close the eyes. Notice your inner landscape now at the end of the practice, and any ways in which it's changed from beginning to end. If you have extra time today, I encourage you to pause this video, maybe set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and just sit with yourself. As you're ready to release your practice, take a big inhale breath, sweep the arms up and open, float open the eyes. And then bring the hands through heart center and down, bow the head in gratitude for an opportunity to practice, another day to be alive. You can release your hands, release your practice whenever you're ready. I hope that was enjoyable. Thank you so much for spending some time sharing this yin with me. I hope this prop-free practice encouraged you to incorporate yin into your other yoga practices, maybe your more yang style practices. And if you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel, help the visibility, and do subscribe. New videos from me every Monday. I would love to hear down below what you would like to see. Any requests, I will film them. This channel's for you. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, namaste. Bye.